The story of Radioflash begins with a teenage girl named Reese. She suddenly finds herself inside a strange room, surrounded by old telephones mounted on the walls. One black telephone in front of her has a small note with a number written on it. Without warning, the phone starts ringing. When Reese picks it up, a robotic voice congratulates her and says she is about to be royal flushed. This makes no sense to her. Curious, she dials the number written on the note. The moment she does, all the phones around her begin to ring. Each one repeats the same message. You are going to be royal flushed. Then, water starts pouring out from the receiver, and the entire room, strangely without a door, begins to flood. Reese panics. Looking up, she sees a toilet installed in the ceiling, which gives her a bizarre idea. Maybe if she can reach the toilet and somehow flush it, the water will drain. Using the telephones as a ladder, she climbs up to the toilet but finds no handle to flush it. It's a trap, just another trick. The water keeps rising, and death feels near. But then she remembers the original number she saw. That gives her a new idea. She climbs back down, dials the number again on a different phone, and a secret compartment opens. Inside it is the missing toilet handle. She attaches the handle, flushes the ceiling toilet, and the water quickly drains out. Reese is saved. Right after this, the truth is revealed. She wasn't really in danger. Everything she experienced was part of a high-tech, virtual reality survival game. Reese was inside a VR gaming center where people compete in complex, highly realistic simulations. She had just completed one of them. After the game, Reese returns home. She lives with her father, Chris, who raised her alone after her mother passed away when she was young. That evening, father and daughter share dinner together, enjoying a peaceful moment. But the peace doesn't last long. Later that night, a massive event occurs. An electromagnetic pulse knocks out the entire power grid. Electricity goes out, internet dies, and the city falls into complete darkness. Chris tries to stay calm and tells Reese that it's probably a minor issue and will be fixed soon, but things quickly escalate. Reese notices her computer was damaged due to the electrical surge, and even though she manages to put out a small fire, it's no longer usable. Chris lights a lantern and jokingly says, maybe it's a good time to disconnect from phones and screens for a while. He shows Reese some old family photos of her late mother, and the two fall asleep on the couch. Later in the night, Reese wakes up and hears strange noises coming from the warehouse attached to their house. Instead of waking her father, she decides to investigate alone. There, she finds an old book titled Radioflash, which explains the concept of EMPs, electromagnetic pulses that can destroy all modern technology. She learns that this warehouse once belonged to her grandfather, Frank. He was a scientist who had spent years studying these phenomena. Although Frank is still alive, he now lives far away in the mountains, isolated from the world. Curious and concerned, Reese searches the warehouse and uncovers an old radio hidden under a cloth. Since mobile networks are down, this radio might be the only way to contact Frank. Thankfully, the radio still works, and Frank had previously set it to his own private frequency. After a few seconds, his voice crackles through. Reese is overwhelmed with relief. She can still reach him. After establishing radio contact, Reese speaks to her grandfather, Frank, who is relieved to hear from her. Frank had anticipated this disaster for years. He explains that the EMP attack is only the beginning of something much worse. Society will fall apart, he warns, and people will turn violent. Supplies will vanish, and chaos will spread. He tells Reese that she and her father, Chris, must come to him in the mountains. There, he has everything prepared: food, shelter, security. It's the only safe place left. Frank sends them a map and reminds Reese that the emergency radio only works within a 5-mile radius. There's little battery left, so their communication is cut short. It's clear Frank has been preparing for this moment for a long time. The next morning, Reese wakes up her father and explains everything. Chris is hesitant at first. He believes Frank is just being paranoid, as he always has been. But when Reese insists and tells him how serious Frank sounded, Chris reluctantly agrees to at least talk to Frank. Once Chris hears Frank's warning firsthand, that this is not just a power outage, but but a large-scale EMP attack, he realizes the danger is real. Frank describes how society will crumble within 3 days. There will be looting, panic, and violence. He urges them to pack up and start moving toward the mountains immediately. Chris finally accepts the plan. Even if Frank turns out to be wrong, at least they'll be safe, and they can always return later. So, Chris and Reese pack essentials and get in their car, using the map Frank gave them as a guide. As they begin their journey, things are already starting to fall apart around them. The city is filled with confusion and tension. Arguments are breaking out between citizens and police. People are growing desperate without electricity, internet, or food. Rumors are spreading fast. Some believe the US has been attacked by a foreign country. The government tries to calm people down, but panic is rising. Chris and Reese stop at a local store to buy some supplies, but the place has already been looted. Frank's predictions are coming true. It's only the first day, and society is already breaking down. They continue driving, but the roads are jammed, and eventually, they get caught in a highway accident. The highway is blocked by an overturned truck. One by one, people begin clearing it themselves, desperate to get out. As night falls, Reese grows tired and dozes off in the car. But when she wakes up, she realizes Chris has missed a turn. They've taken the wrong route. As she tries to correct him, Chris gets distracted and their car crashes into a ditch. Both lose consciousness. By morning, Reese wakes up and sees that their vehicle has slammed into a tree. Her father is alive, but badly injured. With no way to fix the car, they abandon it and continue their journey on foot. Meanwhile, Frank, Reese's grandfather, waits anxiously in the mountains. By his calculations, they should have arrived by now. As time passes, worry begins to grow. Back on the trail, Chris struggles to walk. Reese suggests they rest near a small stream and fetches some water. It's here she learns just how serious his injuries are: broken ribs and a badly wounded arm. Chris had been hiding the pain. Concerned, Reese bandages his arm, trying to keep her composure. They press on after a short break, but Chris is quickly overwhelmed. He collapses and tells Reese to go find help. Frightened but determined, Reese sets off alone. Fortunately, she spots a farmhouse nearby, home to an elderly man named Finn. She pleads for help. By the time Finn arrives with his truck, Chris is unconscious from internal bleeding. They bring him back to the house, but without phones, power, or a working hospital nearby, there's little anyone can do. By evening, Chris passes away. Reese is shattered. They had set out to survive, but her father gave his life in the process. The next morning, Finn helps her bury Chris in a quiet spot behind the farmhouse. Moved by her grief, Finn offers to help her continue the journey to her grandfather. Reese, now deeply saddened and alone, accepts. Back in the mountains, Frank has waited long enough. Concerned for Reese and Chris, he leaves his shelter to search for them. Soon, he comes across their wrecked car crashed into a tree. Bloodstains on a cloth nearby confirm his worst fears. Something has gone terribly wrong. Frank follows the trail and eventually reaches the farmhouse where Reese had earlier found help. It's Finn's home, the same place where Chris had died just the night before. Finding no one around, Frank breaks in. Inside, he discovers blood on the couch and a photograph that suggests a connection to Reese. Out back, he finds a fresh grave. Though he doesn't know who is buried there, the sight convinces him something is seriously wrong. Without wasting time, he resumes his search. Meanwhile, on the road, Reese and Finn encounter a stranger who waves them down for help. Sensing something suspicious, Finn hides Reese behind the truck. His instincts are right. The man suddenly pulls out a gun and shoots Finn. He dumps the body and steals the trailer, unaware that Reese is still hiding inside. Reese, frozen with fear, quietly watches from her hiding spot. The trailer eventually stops at a repair shop. The man begins siphoning fuel, but before he can go further, a rugged hunter arrives and shoots him without hesitation. Seeing a chance to escape, Reese leaps from the trailer and runs into the forest. But her relief is short-lived. The hunter spots her fleeing and quickly captures her. He stuffs her into a bag and carries her to his remote cabin deep in the woods. When Reese regains consciousness, she finds herself face to face with an older woman who seems mentally unstable. This woman is the hunter's mother, and they live together off-grid in isolation. Cold and stern, she tells Reese that she entered their territory without permission, and for that, there will be a price. While searching, Frank finds Finn's body lying by the roadside. Recognizing him from a photo Reese had earlier shown him, Frank realizes she's now in serious danger. Without wasting a moment, he jumps back into his truck and resumes his search with urgency. Meanwhile, back at the cabin, the older woman begins speaking to Reese about her family. She reveals that her 2 sons are Billy, a violent, unhinged hunter, and Quinn, a quiet, reclusive boy who barely leaves his room. Reese has now become a prisoner in their disturbed and isolated world. The woman coldly admits that she used to beat Billy for no reason when he was a child, perhaps explaining why he turned into the unstable man he is today. Reese tries to reason with her, explaining that her father has just died and she needs to reach her grandfather who's waiting for her in the mountains. But the woman shows no sympathy and tells her there will be no help. That night, Reese is forced to sleep in the attic. Though she says nothing, she secretly plans her escape. Once the house is quiet, she sneaks out of the attic, steals the woman's keys, unlocks the front door, and quietly slips outside. But the old woman is more alert than she seemed. She spots Reese fleeing and immediately sends Billy after her. Reese doesn't make it far before Billy catches up, knocks her unconscious, and drags her back. When she wakes, she finds herself tied up inside a sack. Her hands and feet are bound tightly. She quickly realizes Billy has tied her to a tree, using her as bait. Moments later, a wild boar charges toward her, but Billy shoots it just in time. He never meant to let the animal eat her. He just used her as live bait. After killing the boar, he takes Reese back to the cabin, but keeps her tied up to prevent another escape. Billy locks her in a small room for an entire week. When she's finally released, the old woman presents her with a disturbing proposal. She wants Reese to stay and become Billy's wife. Horrified, Reese angrily refuses, declaring she'd rather die in that room than marry someone so insane. After rejecting the twisted proposal, Reese is locked back in the small room, this time with her hands and feet bound, but she refuses to stay trapped in this nightmare. That night, she manages to free herself and attempts to escape again, but the door won't budge. At that moment, Quinn, the shy son who isn't like the rest of his family, appears. Quietly, he unlocks the door. Unlike his brother and mother, Quinn wants to help. The two of them sneak out together. Knowing the terrain well, Quinn guides them through the forest under cover of darkness. By morning, Billy discovers they're gone and begins hunting them down. Being a skilled tracker, he quickly follows their trail into the woods. Meanwhile, Reese and Quinn push forward, surviving on wild berries and trying to stay hidden. Eventually, they reach a cliffside where Quinn slips and nearly falls, but Reese pulls him to safety. Just then, they spot Billy approaching, forcing them to flee again. They reach a narrow log bridge over a deep ravine. As they cross, Billy catches up and fires at them, but the pair narrowly escapes and makes it to a lake. With Billy closing in, they dive underwater and hide. Once he's gone, they resurface and continue running in the opposite direction. Still, Billy isn't fooled for long. He circles around and eventually spots Quinn. A fight breaks out, and Billy drops his gun during the struggle. It lands right in front of Reese. At first, she freezes, scared and unsure if she can pull the trigger. But as Billy prepares to kill Quinn, Reese finds the courage. Just before she fires, a gunshot rings out, and Billy drops dead. But the shot wasn't from Reese. It was from her grandfather, Frank, who had finally tracked them down. Overcome with emotion, Reese hugs him tightly. Weeks later, we see Reese, Quinn, and Frank living together in the mountains. The world beyond is still recovering from the EMP disaster. Cities are in disarray, and chaos lingers. One day, as Quinn scrolls through Reese's iPad, it lights up with dozens of notifications, signaling that the internet is finally back. But Reese, now adapted to her quiet mountain life, doesn't rush to reconnect. Whether she'll return to the old world or stay in this new one remains uncertain. And with that, the story quietly ends.